Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Well, this story is actually old news, which has suddenly turned itself into new news again because a bunch of FFLs have been notified about this significant change, and it has a lot of people in the YouTuberverse here kind of spun up about this. Now, for my Washington residents, the change that's about to occur is not that big of a deal to you, because our state government shoved that down the throats of the FFLs a number of years ago. But for many of you around the country, listen, what the federal government is doing to FFLs is going to make a big difference to you when you go to purchase handguns come this fall. So, today, we got to spend a few minutes and talk about how a NICS denial or delay might earn you a visit from law enforcement. Okay, before we get rolling down the road that we are going down today, happy to announce that this video is being sponsored to you by Legal Heat. That's right, Legal Heat, the nation's largest educator of concealed carry classes, has taught over 200,000 students nationwide since their inception in 2005 and over 4,000 students here in Washington State alone. For my Washington State residents, you can find a class at any one of these locations. For those of you watching around the country, visit them at mylegalheat.com. I'm sure you're going to find a class in your little corner of the world. Now listen, if you sign up, whether you're signing up for a beginner class, an advanced class, whatever it may be, if you use the promo code Washington Gun Law, that is Washington Gun Law, all one word, you will receive 10% off your class. So visit them at mylegalheat.com. That's mylegalheat.com. Okay, so the issue we're talking about today is House Resolution 2417. And you sit there and you go, well, yeah, I don't remember hearing about House Resolution 2417. You didn't. Because this 1,000 pages of legislation here is an appropriations bill. What is an appropriations bill? Well, this is what it is, without getting too far in the woods and boring you to death. When the president comes out and announces his agenda for the year and his proposed budget, there will be certain parts of the president's plans that are accepted by Congress. There will be other parts that are rejected by Congress. Those parts that are accepted, however, we then need to appropriate funds, fund the program. So we have to move money around, move money to this agency, take money from that agency, come up with new revenue here, cut costs here, whatever. And in order to move the money around from the Department of Treasury into any particular government agency, it has to be done through legislation or what's called appropriations bill. So an appropriations bill is nothing more than a statute that allows government to move money around to fund certain parts of their agenda. Now, House Resolution 2417 was actually signed into law on March 15th of 2022, and it dealt with a litany of commerce, okay, various commerce sections all around the country, lots of money being moved for various different purposes. However, one of the fundings that was allowed was for a significant increase in the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, or what we call NICS. Now, we are all familiar with the NICS system because every one of us, no matter what state we live in, will go through a NICS background check when we fill out a Form 4473 and go to purchase any new firearm. Now, even though this legislation was signed into law back in March of this year, what has everyone worked up now is a notice that FFLs nationwide received earlier this week. And this is what you need to be aware of, because for many of you in many parts of the country, this is a significant shift in the way your FFL is going to be conducting business. Now, for those of us here in Washington State, I want you to understand that what the federal government is forcing down the throats of FFLs, the Washington State government forced down the throat of Washington FFLs a number of years ago. But essentially, this is what you need to be aware of, is effective this fall, and we'll get into the details in a second. If you have a NICS denial or a delay, okay, a denial or a delay, it is the ATF's responsibility to notify the local law enforcement agency in the jurisdiction where the applicant resides within 24 hours. And if we think that the ATF and Department of Justice is just going to notify them and not give them any kind of directives as to what to do, well, we're fooling ourselves here. So just so we're clear, if we go in and fill out a 4473 and we get a denial or a delay, that is obviously notified. The ATF is aware of that because they are the ones who in fact issued that denial or delay. In addition to notifying the FFL, though, the ATF starting this fall has to notify the police department in the jurisdiction where the applicant resides. Now, the directive to FFLs, which was received by FFLs nationwide, reads as follows. The Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2022 was signed into law on March 15, 2022. Section 1101 of the Act includes the NICS Denial Notification Act of 2022. The Act requires the Attorney General to report background check denials to state authorities and will require the FBI Criminal Justice Information Services Division National Instant Criminal Background Check System, NICS, section to report all FBI NICS denied transactions to local law enforcement within 24 hours beginning October 1st, 2022. The NICS section plans to implement this change on September 26th, 2022. So understand that effective October 1st, any denial or delay is going to be reported back to local police. Now, the notice to FFLs has more devilish details in there, including the denial notification will include the date and time of the denial, the reason for the denial, and the location of the FFL and the identity of the person. The NICS denial notifications will be transmitted electronically to the appropriate receiving authorities within each state based on the city, state, county, and zip code combination of the FFL location and the city, state, county, and if different, the zip code combination of the attempted transferee's home address. If at any time the original denial is changed to a proceed, an updated notification to those agencies originally notified will be required. So yes, if there is a delay or a denial in error or some kind of clerical error, things like that, that does not matter because ATF's going to notify the police, and then theoretically ATF will notify them again once it's been cleared up. But of course, in that time, you may have already had one or two nasty visits from local law enforcement. Now, there's more details in this notice to FFLs, including the NICS section is working diligently on developing the tools to make this notification as seamless as possible. To make the necessary notifications, all FFLs will be required to provide the buyer's complete address as recorded on the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives Form 4473. For FFLs who initiate a check by contacting the NICS Contracted Call Center, NCCC, the address will be required if the customer receives a delay or a denied status. The information will be required before the status is provided by the NCCC. For FFLs that initiate the check through the NICS e-check, the address will be required if the customer receives a delay or denied response. The response will not be retrievable until the information is provided. Once the system is updated to allow for the capturing of this information, an additional notification will be provided. In addition, if the transfer occurs at a qualifying gun show, the future programming may allow for the full address of the gun show location to be entered also. So, if they are phoning it in, they're not going to get an answer unless they provide all of that information. If they are e-filing it, they are not going to get an answer until they provide all of that information. What is the information that they have to provide? Well, it's your information. It's your name, your date of birth, and your physical address. Why? Well, that's going to help law enforcement likely pay you a visit. Now, as I mentioned earlier, for my Washington residents, back in 2018 with Initiative 1639, we changed all sorts of things related to gun laws, including the implementation of 9.41.114 of the RCW. That statute requires any FFL in the state of Washington to immediately notify their local police department in the event of a denial. So this radical shift in business doesn't have as much of an effect on Washington residents, but it certainly has a seismic shift for many of you around the country that don't live in this kind of environment. You know, those of you who get to live a little bit more free like Americans do. Now, here is the concern. Number one, we all know that denials happen for lots of reasons, and many of them are completely legitimate denials. But every week I talk to multiple people who have been denied a purchase for no good reason. We go back, we look at their history, we look at all of their records, and we can find no reason for which a denial has been given. The other thing, and this is even more alarming, is Now apparently we're going to notify law enforcement when there's been a delay. Well, delays are caused by lots of reasons, but lately, the most common cause of the delay is this sheer volume of background checks going through the NICS system. Let us remember that between 2020, the summer of love, and where we are today, there is an estimated 13.5 million new gun owners in the United States. Now, that's above and beyond current gun owners who also found the need to stock up. We have seen month after month after month record numbers of background checks running through the NICS system. I myself have had multiple delays this year for no reason other than the sheer volume that's going through the system. The mere fact that the system is breaking under its own weight, that the system is ill-equipped to handle the volume, should not then allow law enforcement to go out and pay an uninvited visit to a person to inquire why the NICS system is taking so long to clear them. Okay, so just so we're clear on the dates, the ATF claims that they're going to have this system in place by September 26th of this year, and that this law goes into effect October 1st. That means any delay or denial, which occurs October 1st or later, could subject you to a visit from your local police department. Listen, you may have more questions about this issue or anything else related to your Second Amendment rights. And if you do, don't ever hesitate to contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com. Or, of course, you can call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now, let's remember, part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here at Washington Gun Law, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.